Hello, everyone. Welcome to part 2 of our series on the natural ways to support your immune system. In this part, we're going to be discussing solutions to all of the problems that we found in part 1. So, it's obviously not an exhaustive list from part 1, but we looked at various areas that can affect our immune function and start to compromise our immune system. So in this part, we're really going to look at areas that we can strengthen our immune system and keep it working as well as it possibly can for as long as it possibly can. So with things we're going to be covering in this part is how to protect ourselves from the electromagnetic radiation and the effects on the body from being exposed to Wi-Fi. We're going to look at how to detoxify the main culprits that are in our food and water and air supply. We'll look at some of the dental issues, how we can get our dentists to resolve those issues, supporting our microbiome. We know how important our gut is to our health. And we'll look at some of the lovely supplements and natural interventions there are, which have excellent properties to just modulate our immune systems and keep us as healthy as we can. Obviously, how to relieve stress and address emotional issues. And we'll also look at the need for natural light. And we'll cover that. So the first one is protecting against the electromagnetic radiation. I think we saw how badly this can affect our cells, how it can cause oxidative stress, and it affects many enzymes in our bodies and can really lead to premature aging and to many diseases over time. So to protect ourselves against electromagnetic radiation, we need to make sure we turn off the Wi-Fi as much as we can, but especially at night. You can easily buy a timer plug. They're very, very cheap off Amazon or from your electrical shop. And you just plug your Wi-Fi router into the timer plug. It goes off at 10 o'clock at night or whatever, comes back on 7 o'clock in the morning. And it's a very efficient way of making sure your Wi-Fi gets turned off at night. We can get rid of the cordless phones. We know that these are a major source of radiation in the household. You can also investigate that there are some cordless phones that emit less radiation and are not as bad as some of the others. So if you're absolutely desperate to have a cordless phone, you can investigate ones that are safer. It's important to get your computer connected with an Ethernet cable and, to use a mouse that's connected with a wire and a keyboard that's connected with a wire so that you can turn the Wi-Fi off completely while you're working on the computer. This really helps to minimize the effects on our bodies. You can buy Stetzer filters. These go into the plug sockets around the house and prevent the dirty electricity which might be being emitted from the plug sockets. You can also buy quite a wide range of radiation protective clothing. There's some really good caps that protect the head and t-shirts, shorts, really good protective clothing. So that's something you can look at. And obviously no smart meters. Make sure you send your readings off regularly so that you're not hounded to get a smart meter. The image on the slide shows a Faraday cage, and these can be really needed if you are extremely ill, very, very chronically ill, not recovering. Very helpful for children with autism, just to protect them completely from any radiation coming in. Because obviously if you live in a block of flats or a terraced house, you can turn off your Wi-Fi at night, but you're getting exposed from the places next door. So some of the natural remedies that we can use, we know that rosemary is really got some good science behind how well it can protect us. This first research paper on this slide was a slide done on rats, and they viewed the structural changes due to oxidative stress on these rats, on the parotid gland of the rats, and how it was actually harming them just from being exposed to the electromagnetic radiation. And they were really protected when they were given rosemary extract. And it's this lovely, it's got a very anti-carcinogenic activity, and the lovely natural polyphenols that's found in rosemary are very, very good to increase glutathione and to really stop the oxidative stress that can affect all of us from the electromagnetic radiation and toxins in general. And then there was a second research paper that dates back to 2006, and this showed how it was really benefited the white blood cells and increased a low leukocyte count in these mice, because the radiation can really affect the hematopoiesis, the making of the blood cells in the bone marrow, and the rosemary really protected that and really helped to keep the mice well. And then this last research paper was going back to 2007, and this again showed that it was very, very beneficial to them to reduce the amount of radiation-induced alterations in mice. And then another thing that's very, very useful to protect us is propolis. Propolis is made, bees make propolis, and they make it from the sap that comes out of the bark of trees. And they eat the sap, and then they go back to the hive, and apparently they regurgitate it and they make it into this propolis, which is hugely, hugely beneficial to the immune system. And a couple of really good research papers showing how it contains this compound called CAPE, which is the caffeic acid phenethyl ester, and it can really help to prevent long-term mobile phone exposure and damage. And the first research paper was done on renal impairment in rats, and they found that it really protected the kidneys of the rats, and also helped to decrease oxidative stress in general. Also chromosomal damage. We know chromosomal damage can lead to cancers, and there was a research paper that was done in 2009 which showed that the propolis had a really good protective effect against the chromosomal damage. They showed also that the radioprotective effect was higher, was more prominent at higher doses of the propolis. So that was a good research paper. The propolis was shown to be anti-inflammatory, anti-carcinogenic, antimicrobial, and an excellent free radical scavenger. And the last paper there from 2010, again, this was a human study, and this showed that it was very protective against chromosome damage in lymphocytes. So all of these are great for our immune system. Also melatonin, you know, we know the good sleep hygiene. I think we covered a lot of it in part one, where you really, really make sure that your sleep environment is very dark and very comfortable and not too noisy and as conducive as it possibly can be to a good night's sleep. Because the darker it is and the more we can get into that lovely deep REM sleep, the more melatonin we produce. Okay, so in the next research paper here from 2008, it shows that melatonin reduces oxidative stress induced by chronic exposure of microwave radiation. And this research paper was done at 900 megahertz. And when you think we're already at 2.4 gigahertz, so obviously the higher the level of the radiation being emitted by the phones, the worse the impact. So also the research paper showing oxidative stress in the hippocampus of the brain and the very protective effects of melatonin, and that was done in 2012. So very, very important. And then the pineal gland, very important to protect the health of the pineal gland, because this is the gland that produces the melatonin. And we know things like fluoride, glyphosate, aluminium, and then the electromagnetic radiation all affect the pineal gland and can cause calcification. And so it's very, very important to help support the pineal gland. We can help to decalcify the pineal gland with things like the lovely blue-green algae and really healthy company do a lovely Klamath blue-green algae, which is useful. Also chlorella, spirulina is very good. And also things like the oregano, neem, and cacao. The raw cacao powder, very good to help with decalcifying the pineal gland, as well as ingredients with malic acid, such as apple cider vinegar. So important but the main way to protect our pineal gland is to stay away from the electromagnetic radiation as much as we possibly can. Okay, so we're going to move on now about detoxifying the body, just helping the body to stay as clear of toxins as we possibly can, because we know it's the analogy of having a bathtub that's just filling up with these toxins, and then when the bathtub overflows, that's when we start to get the symptoms and getting the chronic problems that affect our health negatively. So the lower we can keep our toxic load, the better. So we've really, really got to start getting rid of all the chemicals in the home. There's plenty of good websites that do chemical-free alternatives. I think healthyhouse.co.uk is one of them, but Planet Organic. I know Beneficial Environments, they do a lot of solutions for electromagnetic radiation as well. And so there's quite a few different websites where you can look, and as your chemical versions of your cleaners run out, you can replace them with non-chemical alternatives. Obviously, having a lovely clean diet without all the processed foods, that not with all the acrylamides in the chips or the toxins that you get from ready-made food. If you eat lovely organic food that's homemade, really helps to support the body's detox pathways. Cruciferous veg are excellent for the liver, the cauliflower, kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, that type of thing. Very good to support the liver's detox pathways. You want to avoid overburdening the liver. Things like, sugar is an absolute poison to the body, can cause fatty liver. Things like donuts are just, basically poison for our bodies. So excessive alcohol, try and limit the alcohol. No trans fats, the hydrogenated fats we find in a lot of the processed foods, and avoid all the hidden sugars that are in foods. And also, we know how permeable our skin is. We've got patches for various things, hormone patches. We're getting a lot of remedies that we can use on our skin as a patch, because the skin is highly permeable. And so if you're putting chemicals on the skin, in your shampoo, in your face wash, in your deodorants, all of these can add to the buildup of toxins. And so it's very important to get as chemical free as you possibly can, and avoid any antiperspirant deodorants which have aluminium in them, and body lotions that have all these different E numbers and toxins. So glyphosate, we're paying special attention to glyphosate because it's been used widely in all our food supply. So it's so important to buy organic as far as you possibly can, if you can grow your own, because apparently the glyphosate can even be used in organic food as a drying agent. So they grow it all organically in organic soil and get certification, but once it's harvested, they can use the glyphosate as a drying agent. So we might still be getting some even on our organic food in some instances. We can supplement with glycine. It's an amino acid, and it can help to prevent our bodies taking up the glyphosate. We spoke a lot about the fulvic and humic minerals, how important they are. And there's a lovely Austrian peat that's done by a company called Key Science, which does a wonderful fulvic and humic minerals, but there's other companies that do them as well. I think The Gift by Mother Earth Labs is another good one. And then there's binders, which can help get the glyphosate out of your body. What a binder is you take it in, and it basically will just bind to the toxin and get it out through the bowels, moving the toxins away from the kidneys, which are easily damaged by excreting toxins too quickly. So we like zeolites, but little caveat here, we don't really like the liquid zeolites. You've got to be very careful with zeolite. It has to be the correct ratio of silica to aluminium because it does contain aluminium silicate. But the ones that are sold by Key Science, like Lava Vitae, are excellent choices. And the chlorella, really healthy company, does a lovely pure chlorella, as does Key Science. Sauna therapy, the far infrared saunas are fabulous. You know, a lot of the toxins we only excrete in our sweat. And so it's really good to try and do regular saunas, and it's a really good way to detoxify. The ionic foot bath, there's a couple of different types. There's a lovely one from a company called, I think it's Brainstorm Health, and they do the AMD foot bath, which is really quite an excellent one, especially if you're going to use it in a clinic environment and have clients come and use it. But I think they also do smaller ones for personal use. And Key Science do a very reasonably priced ionic foot bath, which really good research, which shows that between 1 and 3 days after using the foot bath, there's a massive excretion of these toxins via the urine and probably also the bowels. So it's not all about the toxins coming out of the feet. That's not how they work. It's that they actually stimulate the body's detox processes to get your excretory organs to get rid of the toxins quicker, because it can take years to get rid of mercury or aluminium from the body. And when we're taking a little bit in and then getting rid of a little bit, you know, it can take forever. Whereas if you use an ionic foot bath as well, it can be very, very useful to speed things up. And then obviously homeopathics, lovely glyphosate 12C, that can be very useful to help to rid the body of glyphosate. Also the dark purple foods, so things like the dark English plums, the acai, dark purple grapes, all of those dark purple foods are lovely polyphenols which help to remove the glyphosate. Then I look at aluminium now. Aluminium, we used to get quite a bit from aluminium pots and pans, but most of us are using good quality pots and pans, stainless steel or the glass ones, or types that are not going to contaminate our food. So it's not so much from that anymore. It's more from the geoengineering, where they're spraying the skies with the nanoized aluminium, which reflects the sun away from the earth in an effort to reduce the global warming. So we're inhaling a lot of the aluminium now. And also it's not good to, quite often we'll get a takeaway that's in an aluminium foil heat little carrier, and we pop that in the oven and heat up the food in the aluminium. It's really not good to do that. It's best to put it into a glass or Pyrex style dish before you reheat it. Again, really good to take binders, because they are going to bind any circulating aluminium in your body to get it out. Things like citric acid, malic acid, and succinic acid are very good. There's a research paper here dating back to 1988 showing that it helps to rid the body of aluminium toxicity. We find citric acid in lemons and limes and those sort of things, but it's used quite widely as a sort of preservative in many processed foods. So some of it's chemically made in a lab, but we prefer the natural form. And the malic acid, that we find in things like apples, cherries, blackberries, strawberries, nectarines, and broccoli. So we find that, and that's very, very good to help remove the aluminium. And the succinic acid, we find that in things like apple cider vinegar, broccoli, rhubarb, sauerkraut. It's also in alpha-lipoic acid and some different supplements, so you can get it supplementally as well. Also, to increase your intake of silica is very important. This is a mineral that's very, very deficient in our diets these days. We used to get it from our water supply, where the lovely spring water would run over the rocks, and you'd get this lovely orthosilicic acid, which is highly absorbable for our bodies. And we'd take that in, and that very, very good research showing that it not only stops us from absorbing aluminium across the gut wall, but it also helps to remove the aluminium systemically from our bodies. So So there's lovely products that have got silica. Biocil is a good form of it that you can buy. And I think there's a lovely product called Polmolo from Key Science that does a lovely form of high silica, and it also contains plant stem cells that help to remove the aluminium from the body. Also the homeopathics, the Alumina Met 30C or the Alumina Sulf 30C. And then detoxifying mercury. We know we've got to avoid getting the aluminium, so the mercury fillings in our mouths. A lot of the fish supply has been contaminated with mercury, especially the canned tuna, the swordfish, that type of thing. So best to avoid too much of that. Always take mobilizers. Now, mobilizer is a product which actually moves the toxin out of the cell into the interstitial fluid, where the binder can get hold of that toxin and get it excreted via the bowel. So very good mobilizers is cilantro or coriander as we know it. And that's an excellent way of trying to get the mercury out. Also, curcumin is a good one. Different forms of curcumin are good at mobilizing mercury. And then you'd have the binder like chlorella, which would bind it. Also taking minerals such as selenium, MSM, which is a type of sulfur, and NAC, which is N-acetylcysteine, is very good. There's also porphyrozyme. Porphyrozyme is a form of a chlorophyll, which is very, very good at detoxifying mercury, and very, very useful for us in this day and age. Also increasing melatonin. We know the melatonin is a wonderful antioxidant, and for every molecule of toxin that we detoxify, we use up one of our molecules of glutathione. So it's really good to keep, especially the NAC, the N-acetylcysteine. That's very good at increasing our levels of glutathione in the body. There was a good research done by Dr. Umura, and he found that cilantro or coriander can mobilize mercury and other toxins rapidly from the central nervous system and the brain, because this is where a lot of these toxins collect. And we're seeing a massive increase in Alzheimer's and dementias. And so anything that can mobilize the toxins from our brain is really brilliant. It can also get it out of the spinal cord, and really, really good to detoxify our brains. And then curcumin, I've mentioned, has significant antioxidant effects, and it's more than comparable to the standard antioxidants, vitamin C and E. And the alcohol extracts and the essential oil of curcuma longa were shown in one study to inhibit the growth of bacterial infections like staph infections, strep infections. So curcuma is also very, very good at helping to prevent infections and for strengthening our immune system. Okay, so we're moving a bit on to the dental issues now. I think you're all aware that we shouldn't be getting the mercury fillings. Funny enough, I just got a newsletter from Dr. Joseph McCullough yesterday saying that the FDA, the Food and Drug Association in America, is finally saying we shouldn't be getting mercury fillings in our teeth 30 years after it's been proven to be very detrimental to us. So you really want to get those mercury fillings replaced by a proper biological dentist, and hopefully in conjunction with a nutritional therapist who is, very much aware of how to detox these any mercury that might be released into your body safely. So it's important to do that. Avoid getting the root canals, and if you do have them, it's probably advisable to get them replaced, especially if you're getting any long-term health issues. When they extract teeth, they don't really remove the dental ligaments as well, so that can cause problems, plus the fact that the infections can set up in the jaw, causing cavitations. So if you have got cavitations, it's good to get those cleared out. I think in the UK there is a cavitation scanner. I think Dr. Elmer Young down in Southampton, he has a cavitation scanner. There aren't many of them that are in existence in the UK as far as I'm aware, but he can scan the jaw to see if there's an issue there. Then you've just got to avoid food allergens to decongest the sinuses. Dairy can be a primary allergen, which can really cause a lot of buildup of mucus. If you have implants, then it's best to use zirconium oxide implants. It's a type of crystal material which allows the light to come into the teeth, and so that's the preferable implant if you do get the implants. Regular hygienist visits. Definitely, I should say, a fluoride-free toothpaste. Because we do not want to take any more fluoride in. We know it destructs the pineal gland, and also an alcohol-free mouthwash. Okay, and then we need to look after our gut. Very, very important that our microbiome is kept healthy. They are best chelators of these toxins. So, really important to see a good nutritional therapist or naturopath to work on getting the gut as healthy as it possibly can, identify whether there's bacteria, parasites, candida, if there's leaky gut, which most of us have, and if there's H. pylori infections in the stomach, and really help to deal with these. We know rinsing our organic vegetables rather than peeling them is really advised, because you get those lovely soil-based organisms that we spoke about in the previous lecture. Really great to get a bit of the good bacteria into our microbiome, including some probiotic foods. Quite often these have to be introduced quite slowly, because it can cause additional wind in the bowel if you increase them too quickly. But kefir and lovely organic unpasteurized sauerkraut are good additions to the diet. Also a bit of raw organic honey and bee pollen. Good research showing that it can significantly improve immune function, because what you want is a modulation of the immune system. You don't want an overfiring immune system. So, for example, a lot of the hay fevers show that there's an imbalance there, and that our immune system's actually overfiring. Funny enough, getting a pet was shown to be very, very, very useful to strengthening the immune system. The Clinical and Experimental Allergy Medical Journal showed that having a pet improved the immune system and reduced allergies. So just by getting those bacteria from the pet. And swimming in the ocean, absolutely brilliant way of getting the good microbiome, the bacteriophages, and the therapeutic effect, shown to be decrease inflammation in rheumatoid arthritis and psoriasis. With the gut, one of the key issues is never to be constipated, because we know a lot of those toxins and things like waste estrogens can get reabsorbed into the body and into the system, and really overburden the liver in the fact that it's got to now clear those out all over again. So getting the lovely soluble fiber from fruit and vegetables, from the flax seeds and pectin, apple pectin, is really, really useful. And supporting the gallbladder. We know how important the bile flow, it's massively cleansing on the gut, really helps with constipation. So getting those cruciferous vegetables in, getting the beetroot, the radishes, the watercress, the ginger, the parsley, the garlic, the coriander, all really important. Supporting our liver health. Lots of people have got compromised liver due to a sort of overburdening of ready-made foods and fats, trans fats, and too many sugars. So castor oil packs over the liver can be hugely beneficial. Coffee enemas 2 or 3 times a week really helps to increase glutathione and helps the body to detoxify. Or you can take a supplement of glutathione and oral-lipoic acid to shuttle the toxins into the bile. We know quercetin and curcumin, very good to reduce inflammation in the gut, which might be causing bloating. DGL, which is deglycerized licorice, is excellent to heal the mucous membranes of the gut, and especially in the stomach where there's been H. pylori or something degrading the stomach lining. Also, we're commonly deficient in so many of these nutrients, as I mentioned in part 1. So sometimes it's necessary, depending on if you are deficient, to supplement things like zinc, selenium, molybdenum, folic acid, preferably in its active form of L-MTHFR, B12, vitamin C, and glutathione. and take care of the gut, get rid of the bad bugs, replenish the enzymes and the probiotics, heal the leaky gut. Really important. And keeping really well hydrated with a really good water filter system, hugely important, because our water can be contaminated. We spoke in part 1 as well about the fulvic and humic acid complex. This is a wonderful way to increase our mineral intake, especially as our soils are so depleted. And then, increasing nutrients. We know that there's been research which shows that having optimal levels of vitamin D work better than the vaccinations to prevent the flu. So it's good to get a test just to check where your levels are. Remember, vitamin D is stored in the liver, so you don't want to overdose on too much of it. Generally, going into winter, 5,000 IU is a good amount to be taking. And it's great to combine it with vitamin K2, which has been shown to be very good at getting the calcium into the bones. And we know that vitamin D3 and K2 can prevent osteoporosis and can prevent osteopenia and degradation of the skeleton. And then getting good, adequate forms of vitamin C. Quite often, if our food is depleted in vitamin C, it's best to get it in a lovely natural form like rose hips. I think there's a lovely complete ascorbate powder from Key Science, and a lot of the supplement companies are doing more natural forms of vitamin C. And vitamin A, good to keep your levels up, get all the dark orange vegetables in. If you do eat meat, then a bit of organic chicken liver, it's nice chicken liver pate, good in high levels of vitamin A. Curcumin, lovely to get that into the food. You can use the whole turmeric root, put it in your smoothies. And zinc. Zinc, really important. If you do have a viral infection, they really recommend taking an ionoform such as quercetin at the same time, because it helps to get the zinc into the cells where it does all its magic. Or take it at the same time as you're eating high quercetin foods such as red onions, red apples, and those type of foods. This is the lovely guidelines from the Alliance for Natural Health, showing us how we should divide up our food with lots of unprocessed vegetables, unprocessed fruits, a few of the gluten-free grains. Really important to get those lovely herbs that have been not irradiated. So get all the spices and herbs in. Get a bit of meat and fish if you do eat that. Otherwise, you get your protein from lentils and chickpeas and quinoa, that type of thing. So very good visual of how to organize your food. Okay, so we're going to get on to an excellent therapeutic to really help to improve our immune systems if you feel that your immune system is weakening, and probably good for all of us to take coming into winter, where we are more likely to catch colds and flus. So what is BioBran? BioBran is an immunomodulator, and it's been derived from rice bran. It has years of peer-reviewed research, and I really encourage you to look at the website www.biobran.org/research. There are loads of research papers there on this product. It's a pharmacologically active natural product sold in 49 countries. It's very, very safe, and it's non-toxic. They did LD50 tests and it passed them. And LD50 is the amount of material that's given all at once, which causes the death of 50% of the group of test animals. And they really passed that test. No amount of it killed any of the animals. And in human studies, it's been shown to never cause any liver problems, and that's shown by the ALT and AST markers, so it didn't affect the liver negatively. So BioBran, it's fractionated, it's pre-digested, it's been hydrolyzed by an enzyme carbohydrase, which has been derived from shiitake mushroom. It contains these long polysaccharide molecules, which have been broken down into these components known as hemicelluloses. And the key one is this arabinoxylan. This is a form of fiber from the rice, which has got a very low molecular weight. It's been between 30,000 and 50,000 Daltons. And what that means is that it's very, very well absorbed in the small intestine, and it passes through the intestinal wall into the immune cells where it works its magic. So it's hugely is able to activate your B cells, your T lymphocytes, your natural killer cells, which we know are the ones that fight the cancer, fight infections, and also our dendritic cells. It also stimulates our cytokines, which are our chemical messengers, and the cytokines can stimulate our natural killer cells to produce these perforins, which actually perforate malignant and other cells to destroy them. So it's got a wonderful action that's had a lot of study put into it. So people that would really benefit from this is people with weakened immune systems, but they found that it can be used for people with autoimmune conditions as well, as long as they are not on any immunosuppressant drugs. It can be used alongside other medications and can be used alongside other protocols that help to decrease the pathogen load. It's very, very strong anti-inflammatory effect, so great for things like rheumatoid arthritis, and very, very important to help strengthen our immune systems. I'm just going to go through a few research trials. This one was done in 2010, and this one showed that the BioBran was very, very useful in the treatment of liver cancer and really helped the survival rate of liver cancer, and that it also really helped to decrease the tumor volume and was had a very much longer survival rate by taking BioBran. So those are both of those research papers showed that the survival rate was longer. The second trial had quite a significant trial with 205 advanced cancer patients who'd been through all the chemotherapy and had all the treatment, and it definitely extended their lives. And then some other research papers that were done on an 11-year study on 3,625 Japanese men and women with no cancer incidence originally revealed that the woman with the lowest natural killer cell activity had double the amount of cancer incidences. So we know by really increasing those natural killer cells and stimulating the natural killer cell activity can be very good as a preventative against cancer. And good research on neuroblastoma, both in vitro and in vivo. So some good research papers there. So another excellent thing about BioBran is that the way it can help to modulate our immune system is that it's one of the few products that contains PAMP. And PAMP is pathogen-associated molecular patterns. And what they found is that this is really needed to bring that lovely balance back to our immune system. And it's only found in nature. You cannot produce it in a laboratory. So it's one of the few places that we can get PAMP. It's also another research paper showing how it was very good against hepatitis C virus, and a trial of 37 chronic hepatitis C patients. It worked better than the medication to really help them recover, and very, very few side effects. So they reported really good health taking the BioBran. As with personal experience with giving my clients BioBran, they definitely feel better once they're on it. And when they stop taking it, they can feel worse, especially when they've had chronic illness. So you can definitely feel it working. And the therapeutic effects of BioBran on irritable bowel syndrome. This is becoming more and more prevalent, especially some of it's stress-related, but we find the lovely anti-inflammatory and immune modulatory effects of BioBran can really help to tamper down those effects of irritable bowel syndrome. So how do you take BioBran? Basically, you can just empty a little sachet, put it under your tongue. It's more absorbable, absorbing it through the mouth. Take it about 20 minutes after a meal. If you have a cold or infection, you can take 500 milligrams a day. But for more serious infections, you can take 1 sachet a day. For very serious infections, or if you really feel like you are coming down with a massive flu or something, you can take 1 sachet 3 times a day for a couple of weeks or months. And that can be very, very useful. And children can take Biobran as well. So it's a very, very useful to take. We've spoken quite a bit about improving sleep and improving our melatonin production, so I won't go into this again, but definitely important to protect ourselves from the EMFs, to improve our melatonin, and taking a bit of chromium before bed can be really useful because it stops that dip of hypoglycemia in the night. And this was a research paper which showed short sleep duration increases the risk of infectious diseases. I think we all know if we have a few heavy nights out and we've had very little sleep, quite often we'll get sick. And it's because we really need that deep sleep. That's my lovely cat, Max, he's a really good sleeper. And then reducing stress. Research has shown that listening to Mozart for half an hour is equivalent to taking a Valium. Light therapy, getting the bright daylight in the morning can be really, really important to reduce depression and to help resolve stress. Exercise is wonderful. Connecting to nature, going for woodland walks, forest bathing, just wonderful to reduce stress. Connection with your friends and family. Mental field therapy, which is a type of tapping and toning, has been shown to move people into parasympathetic state, so you can like a rest and relax where you can heal. Being mindful to avoid any negative thoughts and being present. So much of the time we're worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or next year, or worrying about or feeling guilty about things we've done in the past or what somebody said, and just being present can be massive to reduce stress. Meditation, absolutely wonderful to calm the nervous system down, and there's research showing how it can reduce many diseases and help to stabilize the immune system. Obviously, dealing with traumas and adverse childhood events, really encourage you to get professional help if needed. Work with somebody. The autonomic response testing, psychokinesiology is very good. Family constellations, dynamic neural retraining systems. There's TREY, which is a trauma release exercises. Homeopathy can be very important. Short-term things like batch flower remedies or bush flowers can really help you get over a bad patch, as well as chakra balancing, energy medicine. But it's really crucial to make sure this area is dealt with because it can affect you very negatively. There's a beautiful scene of being out in nature, out by the seaside, looking at the sunset. Absolutely wonderful to de-stress. Yes, we've covered the exercise. Any exercise that you love, yoga is fabulous. Walks in nature. And the importance of getting light through the eye and into the optic nerve. We know that lack of sunlight causes depression and SAD syndrome, and that the stimulation of the optic nerves actually sends a photocurrent to the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus governs the autonomic response system. So this can have a negative effect on the immune system, just the lack of light. We know turquoise light in the evening, round about sunset time, can stimulate melatonin levels. So important to get that light. So we've covered so many issues, and these are not exhaustive, but they're just some good ideas to just help you keep that really strong immune system. We've looked at all of the different aspects of it, but we've left out the most important one of all, and that is love and laughter. And the more you can have love and laughter in your life is the best way to strengthen your immune system. Thank you so much for your attention today. Hope you enjoyed listening to this talk and the previous one. And I hope it really helps you to stay well this winter and all for the rest of your days. And thank you very much again for listening. Bye for now.